Howdy, it's Jim Morado. Still in the southern part of Indiana. We're in Lincoln City, and we're actually leaving. We're driving away from one of the trails at the national park site that's devoted to Abraham Lincoln in town, and we're going to drive over, and I'll keep the video going while we go over to the state park right across the street in the same town devoted to Abraham Lincoln. It's if you're a fan of Abraham Lincoln, you kind of get a lot for your money in this neck of the woods. There are these two sites, the national park, boyhood home location, which we're just leaving. I'll put up another video about it. But they have the, you can kind of go and see where the foundation of the Lincoln home was at back when Abraham Lincoln came from Kentucky with his mom and dad over in Indiana, and they moved here. They have kind of a bronze casting of the foundation, and it's really nice. They've got a pioneer village. They have a museum and some nice walking trails, and his mother is buried on the site. And there's a tombstone. And as we just left the national park. We're driving right into the state park here in just a moment. And I was here a few years earlier with my dad, and I came down on this particular day with my wife, and we came down to southern Indiana. We thought we could do this and also do Santa Claus, Indiana in the same day right before Christmas, and we were able to do that successfully. Holiday World's not open, though. If you wanted to fit that in, that'd be a whole nother topic. And we're going past, this is the little station, the little ranger station where you pay your fee to get in. They had a little sign up basically saying, park's open today, don't worry about it. I think it said if the gate's open, drive on through, but we stopped by anyway just to, we wanted to make sure we were doing everything by the books. And I forget what the admission here is. I think it's so much per car, and it is cheaper if you're a resident of Indiana. But I can't remember what the charge was when I was there several years ago. Man, I want to say maybe around $10, but I could be way off. And this little state park is really nice too. It's set up to where, even if you don't care about Abraham Lincoln, there's plenty to do. There's a lake and some cabins, and there's a little visitor center museum kind of thing. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't open this particular day. I think they'd kind of closed down most of their services, and that's why they left the gate up and just let people come in and out. But this is definitely a place to stop if you're a fan of Abraham Lincoln. And I still have my brochure that they gave me back when I was there a few years ago. And just to read you a little bit from that brochure, it mentions, young Abe Lincoln spent part of his youth in the woods and fields of this region in the 1,747 acres of today's park, which was established in 1932 as a memorial to the 16th president's mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln. Honest Abe once recalled his childhood home with these words, "The very spot where grew the bread that formed my bones I see. How strange, old field, on these to tread, and feel I'm part of thee." A trail called Mr. Lincoln's Neighborhood Walk highlights the park's Lincoln-era sites, such as Noah Gardner's mill and the grave of Abe's sister, Sarah Lincoln Grigsby. We'll go by that grave here in a little bit. Many of the structures here are part of history too. The Civilian Conservation Corps, CCC, was instrumental in establishing the park's recreational facilities, building the Lake Lincoln, the Lakeside Shelter House, the boat rental building, formerly a ranger cabin, and many trails. Many of the park's trees were planted by the CCC. Within these groves of green, visitors can find cool respite from the summer sun as they use Lincoln's family cabins, an electric campground, and group camp facilities. The Sarah Lincoln Woods Nature Preserve is located in the southernmost part of the park. This nature preserve protects a rare southern Indiana plant community called the Oak Barrens. Oak barrens are marked by small populations of prairie plants growing in very open oak woodlands with dry sandy soil. Early surveyors described these sandy ridge tops with clearings as barrens, some oak, hickory, grassy. In addition to the Lincoln relics, the property's Federal-style brick farmhouse of William Jones, merchant, farmer, politician, and Union Army colonel, depicts life in the mid-19th century. Visitors can tour the house, and a restored log barn moved to the site in 1995. Tourism programs run from April through October. Request the naturalist schedule for times. Yeah, so there's just a tiny bit of information about the history of the park, especially relating to Lincoln. I'll check that guy out. I love this little fellow. We stopped and just put the camera on him for a little bit. He was just posing for us. Yeah, so we did see a tiny bit of interesting wildlife as we circled around the park, and I'm sure there was more to see if we would have had more time. But yeah, and on about the park a little bit, there is a theater where I believe they usually do some sort of Lincoln-related production. I don't know a lot about that. If you've seen that, let me know. I'd like to hear about it. That's something I'll have to, yeah, I'm definitely going to have to make a point to try to check that out at some point in the future. But yeah, at the moment, we're just kind of circling around, checking things out before we actually stop at some of the main sites to see. There's there's like a memorial, and we do stop over at the church that Lincoln and his family attended when they lived in the area. It's still there. I believe it's the exact same, basically, congregation. Obviously not the same members, but I'm sure there's some descendants in there, and they still have the church, but it's not the exact same building. But I believe it's built in the exact same spot. And it's just a stone's throw away from where his sister is buried. And in fact, there's a little, just a little bit of a summary on the back of some of the things to see in the area here in the park. It does mention the Lincoln Amphitheater presents the Lincoln, a theatrical experience unlike any other. Productions may vary each year. And, you know what it says to check out the schedule. And there are several hikes that they mention too. And just a couple that kind of popped out to me. There's the James Gentry Trail, which is 3.7 miles, and it's moderate. Takes you across... it takes you along the northern border of the property to the site of the James Gentry home. Abraham Lincoln worked at the Gentry store as a young man, and the Lincolns slept their last night in Indiana at this location. A historical marker designates the site. Passing through mature forest, the trail returns south to State Route 162 to the house shelter. A short side trail takes you to the Weber Lake Trail. Then there's also the Mr. Lincoln's Neighborhood Walk, which is 1.7 miles, also listed as moderate. Young Abe spent many hours at the Gordon Mill waiting to mill grain. This trail branches off of Trail 1 at the picnic shelter just west of the beach. You will pass the Little Pigeon Primitive Baptist Church and the gravesite of Sarah Lincoln Grigsby, the Gordon home and mill sites. By connecting with Trail 1 on the south shore, you can continue around the lake. And then there's also the Sarah Lincoln Grigsby Trail, which is moderate at 1.7 miles, running through Sarah Lincoln's Wood Nature Preserve. This is the park's most pristine and unused area. You may find many prairie plants unusual to the area. Yeah, and we're actually pulling in right now to the Little Pigeon Primitive Baptist Church. There's a little cemetery right by it. Again, where his sister is buried, along with her husband right beside her. And there's a little information board.
It's pretty just sitting here watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's just me kind of panning around, checking out the cemetery and the church there. It looks very tranquil. I would like to I'd like to attend a service there one Sunday morning. I think that would be kind of fun. Anyway, we've moved along. We're actually at a different location now. This is the Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Plaza. And from the brochure they gave me at my first visit when we stopped by, the Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Plaza, designed by Will Clark and George Morrison. The monument reminds visitors of Abraham Lincoln's growth from boy to man. The plaza contains several pedestals and markers illustrating various milestones in Lincoln's young life in Indiana. The monument came about through a cooperative effort between the DNR, the Indiana Arts Commission, the Indiana Historical Bureau, and the Indiana Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Commission. So yeah, it literally shows his height at different points in his life, and then you come behind this wall, and there's kind of a nice upper torso statue of Honest Abe. And it is kind of interesting the way the actual statue is sort of hidden. And then there's some little benches there you could sit and think about Abraham Lincoln and his life in Indiana. I always think this sort of thing is really fun, especially when you're walking on the grounds, of a place where Abe would have gone to church, and where his sister and his family, they walked these trails. They walked from their home to that church, which is actually kind of a long walk if you go there. I mean, it's something you could definitely do. Nice summer day would be a nice, probably 20-minute, half an hour walk. but to do it every Sunday would be, eh, it would take some energy. But it is, just fun thinking about him living in this area and hanging out here and developing into the man he would become. Yeah, and if you're into Lincoln, and I love Lincoln. Here in Kentucky, we've got the birth site and the childhood home. A few hours away in Indiana, they've got this site. It's not that far from Owensboro, Kentucky, Evansville, Indiana, and as I mentioned, Santa Claus, Indiana. And then in Illinois, you've got a few more sites that are well. I think most Lincoln fans, if you're going to hit one of the sites, you go to Illinois. But yeah, we're driving back over to the national park site from the state park site here. So anyway, I just wanted to put that little video together. So I hope it makes you want to go and visit the Lincoln State Park.